I'm disappointed
Why?
because none of you have wished me happy Dyslexic Awareness Month.
You're dyslexic?
Mm-hmm. Certified. So we wanted to do a little breakdown of the latest project that we just completed that released today, Decoding Dyslexia. Today, Jonathan and I want to sit down and talk about the project, how it went, what we liked about it, what we wish we could do differently, and whatever else is on Jonathan's pretty brain.
I have a very pretty brain.
You were kind of the lead producer on this one, so tell me about the beginning of it, what information you had, and what you learned about the school through the process.
Yeah, well, we had already done a short branding video for the Dyslexia School last summer of 22.
Mm-hmm.
So we already knew a little bit about the school, had some context. But really for this one, we were wanting to create a more personal story, kind of connecting with the individual stories of a few of the kids that went to the school, making it about their struggles and their journey rather than just the school itself. So Tammy Spencer, the owner of the school, she selected 4 kids that she thought would make good candidates for the storyline, and we just kind of went from there. Tried to schedule a couple of different recording sessions for each one, with the idea that we'd shoot interviews with the student, with the parents, and then get some kind of footage of them doing something that was meaningful to them.
So it kind of didn't work out that way for us at first, right? I think we discovered that we maybe didn't need 2 shoots per kid. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think when we started out, then we kind of had an idea of what it was going to be, and we didn't. I think one thing that we maybe didn't do enough of on this was ask enough questions and get enough information on the front end. And what the Dyslexia School was doing over the summer is they have a kind of a summer camp type thing where the kids come in for, I think it's a 3-hour session every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of went into it assuming, each one of these 4 kids is going to be going through this summer camp. So we'll be able to kind of film them at the beginning of the summer and then film them at the end of the summer to kind of show their progress. Well, it turns out only one of the kids was actually going through the summer camp this summer. The rest of them had already been through the program before. So we didn't really have that opportunity to show that progression. But that's kind of where, what you think a project's going to be at the beginning isn't always where it goes. And we kind of discovered some different storylines along the way. And I think it ended up being a really compelling story in the end. It was different than what we thought it was going to be.
For sure.
But yeah, some of them, we did do a couple recording sessions for some of them.
Yeah, I think Carter, we definitely filmed twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harrison, we kind of filmed because he was the only student that was in the program at the time. We filmed him a few times at the school, and then
we went to the school once near the beginning of the summer, and filmed him then, and then we went back to the school not quite at the end of the summer, more at the middle, but already by then he was showing some progress and got some really good footage of him actually, sounding out his words, and doing things that he couldn't quite accomplish at the beginning of the summer. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about the beginning stages of what inspiration you and I found on how we shot it, and it's kind of the nerdy stuff, some of the gear that we used.
Yeah, so something that I kind of thought from the beginning was it'd be fun to make it a little bit more cinematic than we normally do on our shoots. We've kind of got not that we can only do this style, but we kind of got a typical style that we approach projects with, and it's a little bit more kind of like documentary style. And this one is still in that vein, but we just wanted to make it a little more visually appealing. And I really enjoyed the Becoming You documentary on Apple TV, which is still a very documentary feel show, But just some of the way that it's shot, the B-roll, the stories with the kids, it feels very intimate and personal and just beautiful, beautiful cinematography.
Yeah, I think a lot of the shots are really shallow, have that shallow depth of field.
Yeah, so that's kind of one thing that we approached was like, hey, let's just find a way to make it feel, rather than shooting, like I don't think we used any gimbals on this one. It was all handheld.
Yeah.
Or tripod for the interviews, but just kind of to make it feel a little bit more immediate, like you're right there with them. A little less corporate-y,
Yeah.
And I think we achieved that really well.
I do too.
We shot all the interviews with the Sony FS5 on Rokinon glass, real shallow. I think f1.4. So that was our wide angle. I think a 50 millimeter f1.4 lens for all of our interviews. And then we used, what did we use for the side angle?
The B cam was the C70 with the 7200.
Right.
And some of those we did handheld, and some we did tripod. I think after the first one, I said we're doing the next few tripod.
On the tripod, yeah, because handheld was a little bit tiring, especially if it's a 45-minute interview.
Yeah. But no, I think the first inspiration that you had from the first documentary, I think you showed me the trailer, and that really inspired me. So when I started to edit, I downloaded the trailer and kind of put it on top and kind of mirrored some of the things that they did in there. So the first part of the whole video is we kind of stole or taken parts of how that trailer was shot. And that was kind of the most, I don't know, it got us excited to really get the project started, because we kind of envisioned the first minute kind of just sharing the first part of the whole film and, establishing what this film is actually about. This has been, a 3 to 4 month process, maybe longer.
Yeah, I think we started planning in May, started shooting in June, and then we finished it up in mid-September. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun watching the reactions of people. We got to see him watch it live at the gala and had some good comments there from people. All the participants, all the families were super happy. I think that was something fun too, as I don't think I've ever worked with as many kids as we have in this film. So interviewing that many kids in one settings, and they actually said some really good stuff. I mean, they made the film, really. Anyone that watches Lucia's part, they get real emotional, and she was so cute and so funny.
Really well spoken.
Yeah, really well spoken. Yeah. I don't think you asked her a question at all. She just sat down and started.
I didn't even have the opportunity to ask a question. She sat down and just launched into, clearly she had a lot on her mind. And I mean, that was great as an interviewer. That's fantastic.
Yeah, she was really good on camera. All of them really were good on camera. Why don't we play a little bit of the timeline and just intro. Go through a little bit of it.
Zoom in here. Yep, here we go. Whoosh.
All right, should we tell them about the voiceover here? The voiceover artist?
The voiceover artist, the AI voiceover artist.
Yeah, that's right. This is a voiceover artist, and this is the first project that we've done this with. Actually, I take that back. We did it for a small project to see if it would pass through the client. We didn't tell them, but it worked out, and they loved the voiceover. So this was kind of fun to play with some AI stuff on this one.
Yeah, and it took a little bit of playing around with it and tweaking the settings and lots of different tries to where ultimately it probably would have been easier and faster to go through a traditional voiceover artist.
Maybe. I feel like there's a delay when you're like having to wait on someone else to get back in the studio, re-record it. But maybe they would have done it right on the first try. So you might be right.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was still fun to play with. And, initially I'd put it in there just as a rough pass for us to kind of get an idea of what it was. And actually wrote the whole script for the first part with AI. So that was something fun to do too. Which,
speaking of dyslexia, is something that for you is really helpful, right?
Yes.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, it would have been challenging for me to say that's one reason I love writing, but I've never really tackled it because of struggling with dyslexia. I hate emails. I hate doing all that stuff. But with the AI, it's been really helpful because I can just type my random thoughts and it helps put it together, formulate it, make it where someone normal like Jonathan can read it and understand it. So anyways, that was kind of a fun part for the first part. And the visuals. This is where I was excited to start to really see the film come together.
Yeah.
You know, Carter jumping on the trampoline, seeing Luke smile, and Harrison putting his helmet on, and her crying, Lucia crying. It's just,
as we unveil
I don't know, I think it looks so good.
to success.
And then Levi came up, well, you came up first with the super there, that's called the little title that came in. And then Levi made it really cool by actually having the dyslexia word kind of code in.
Which I don't think we have in this version of the
I did.
timeline. Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't watching closely enough. I thought I had an older,
I thought that was a nice touch
Yeah, I thought I had an older version of the timeline here.
that we added that in. I don't know if people really noticed it, but...
It's subtle, but I know some people did. I know
Yeah.
Tammy noticed it.
Did she?
Yeah.
Cool.
She mentioned it.
Cool.
One thing that I want to talk about is just, kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, what we originally thought the project was going to be versus how it turned out. And that's honestly what's fun about documentary projects and any project is it always ends up differently than what you think it's going to be at the beginning. The whole saying a film is made 3 times: when you write it, when you shoot it, when you edit it. And you have kind of another, not really another stage, but I feel like that's even more true in a documentary just because things come up that you didn't know were there. And something that we didn't know at the beginning was, we went to go film Carter's family and then we come to find out, it's Robert making faces through the glass.
Sorry. Oh,
Well, something that we didn't know going into it was that Carter's dad also has dyslexia.
Yeah.
And that was a fun angle on the story that I really enjoyed because we didn't know about it going in, but then we discovered that we're like, oh, okay, now we've got, this perspective of this father who struggled with this when he was younger and not getting the help early.
And I don't think we would have discovered that too if we didn't structure the shoot the way we did. So the first time you and I went out there, the goal was just to shoot B-roll, kind of get to know them. No audio stuff, just sit down and kind of get them familiar with us get familiar with them. And I don't think we would have discovered that if we wouldn't have set that first shoot up like that with them. So I think that was good.
I thought it added a depth to it because just the emotion and the passion that he had talking about, hey, I struggled with this when I was a kid and now these resources are available that weren't available to me, but they're available to my son. And that was really cool.
And that really resonated with me because his dad and I are kind of the same age. I think he's a couple years older than me, but he had went to the Sylvan Learning Center, which was kind of like the dyslexic school of that time. And so we had some similar experiences, and it was cool to hear how he dealt with it. And now seeing his son who's dealing with it and the difference that it makes in their lives it was really eye-opening for me, at least. And what made me even more excited about the project.
Yeah, no, this was, I think eye-opening is the right word for this entire project because I didn't know a whole lot about dyslexia going into it. And just, I think seeing the experience play out differently for each of these 4 kids was really enlightening, really educational. And I think that's what it will be for people who watch the documentary. I think it's valuable having those different perspectives because it is, each person deals with it differently. There's different types of dyslexia. And so just kind of seeing that play out differently, different personalities, I think having those different perspectives really made it achieve that goal of raising awareness, showing people why it's important that the kids get these interventions.
Yeah. And I think originally too, the goal was to do 30 to 20 minute doc.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Was that,
and we ended up right around 20 minutes.
I know, but when you and I were first talking, you were thinking that it might be shorter.
It really was. We didn't know what the content was going to be. We didn't know, we hadn't filmed any of these kids yet. So it's kind of, hey, this could be a 5-minute thing or it could be a 50-minute thing. It's, and you really can't discover that until you shoot it. And it ended up around 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It could have been longer.
It definitely could have been longer. I had a hard time cutting things for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of it was really good material, but I think the story worked out best right around the 20-minute mark. Now, I think we can probably go back in and take some of that content and make some shorter pieces out of it.
Sure.
There's material in there that's helpful material.
And the school may choose to do that, Yeah. In fact, we've cut, I think, 4 trailers. That was something that was fun too, is we really promoted this video a lot. We did 4 different trailers. We've posted them, I think, one a week and up until launch. And we're planning on putting these in some film festivals. So it's been fun for us to really promote a film that we shot. And I don't think we've ever spent this much time promoting something that we shot. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot more fun to promote something when it's doesn't just feel like you're tooting your own horn, but it's like we're promoting this because, it actually benefits our client by, the more people see this, just raising awareness and getting more people, specifically more people in the Houston area, aware of this school and what they're doing.
Let's talk about Miss Tammy for a minute. She is so sweet.
Yeah. And honestly, kind of a dream client to work for.
Yeah.
Because she asks for a lot. Like she expects high quality and she wants high quality, which is great. Like we don't want to work for people who don't want good work, but she understood that we're the professionals and she gave us a lot of freedom. She was very clear with us. Hey, this is what I want to do. This is the story that I want to tell. But she didn't try to micromanage. She didn't try to tell us how to do our jobs. She was like, hey, this is what I want. These are the types of stories that I want to tell. And then she asked us, like, how do we tell this?
And she really trusted us.
Yeah.
And that was the cool part. So you have some people that they have a vision in their mind. And like you said, they really kind of stand over you the whole time. And she wasn't like that. But I think we executed her vision. I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
Really well. She's very happy with it, very proud of it, and we were super grateful and honored to work with her, and glad that the relationship will continue for sure.
Yeah, she's fun client to work for.
So I think that's the only stock footage that we used. 2 shots. Oh, some of the Houston stuff.
Yeah, some of the Houston drone.
We know that 87% of our Texas prison system is functionally illiterate.
So that's that real shallow depth of field. So
everything 50 millimeter.
Everything's blurry in the background.
So there's a school to prison pipeline being built.
Fortunately, she had a beautiful home to film in.
She
I
did.
was being notified by a lot of family members. Their kids weren't being taught the way that they were used to them being taught, and they reached out for help.
So this first part, we're just setting up how she started the school.
Giving some of the context.
Yeah.
A few kids.
You want to jump ahead to Carter's?
They were just going to be closed for a few.
I love how we transition from her talking, give a little bit of something from Carter, and then the titles.
Yeah.
I love the titles that you came up with.
Well, in Greater Houston, word spreads quickly.
I knew my other friends could read, so I was like, why am I having trouble reading but nobody else is?
Yeah, he's just amazing kid.
Yeah, he is. So well spoken. And I it would have been cool to meet him before he went through all this, because they said he really struggled. I remember Tammy saying that he would be kicking and screaming. And
yeah. Well, and that's where, we were able to use a little bit of kind of found footage, use some of my phone footage in there, which, it doesn't look as good as the nice cameras, but honestly, on something like this, it's the story is the most important. And
I do wish that we could drive somehow. It was just timing and everything, but I want to drive, when we do more stuff, the frustration of how frustrating it is, the struggle, because, we did a little bit by when he talks about it here, I think he said if you type a bunch of random words, that's what it looked like to him. And we kind of put a little title text on the side to kind of show it. But if anything, I wish we could go back a little bit and figure out a way to really drive it home for the viewers that don't have dyslexia to kind of see the struggle. And we did, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
That nobody else.
Confused understanding. That's what I love about what Philip said. That described it the best.
They got me tested and realized that there was something going on.
I loved Philip's passion when he's talking about it. He brought the energy, I think, to the film. All right, well, let's talk about Harrison a little bit.
You got that last one.
Harrison came to us. He's just starting. He is the most excitable individual I know.
So what do you remember about Harrison's interview?
It was difficult. Just because him and his little brother, were running around and making noise, as kids will do. But honestly, it made it fun.
It sure did.
It brought a certain level of energy to it, and you don't.
I think that was a challenge because I haven't worked with that many kids.
Yeah.
And getting them to sit still, and we didn't end up using any of his interview. There was one hilarious part
which we couldn't use, but kids say the darndest things.
Yeah, they sure do. But his family was super nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like it looks good. It's a good interview, and part of it when she's talking, little brother's kind of dancing in the background that I thought was distraction.
You masked that out. So
maybe we could show that. That's pretty funny.
TV and iPad. So
hanging there in the background.
In a minute, he shoots the camera. I think we cut it.
Yeah. But yeah, just an easy mask out.
That was fun, though.
And Luke was fun.
Luke came to me in the middle of his second grade year. He was a brilliant young man. His vocabulary was off the charts.
So the thing that
just wasn't connected.
Lauren, Luke's mom, said that really stuck with me is that she kind of accused Luke of not trying in the beginning because she didn't know.
Yeah.
She just felt like he wasn't trying.
Yeah.
And I could totally relate to that because I remember my parents being super frustrated with me and like, why won't you do your work? And me not really knowing how to explain to them that, hey, when I look at this stuff, it just doesn't make sense to me. And, you feel a little self-doubt. You're like, how come everyone else around me can do this assignment? Why can't I do it? So there's a lot that goes to it that these kids have to face that are going through school. And so I'm just really glad that the school's there to help them out. But when she said that resonated with me for sure. I think we put it towards the end. That
and
statement.
then, of course, during this interview, Luke was crawling all over the place. I had a hard time sitting still. just a challenge of filming
Yeah, and
kids on camera.
That's one reason, too, why I chose to use the B cam. Because it was cool, but sometimes it could be distracting.
Yeah.
Neat kid, neat family.
And then, of course,
Lucia.
I
I think she made everybody cry.
Yeah. Yeah, we said this at the beginning. She sat down in front of the camera and just immediately started talking. I didn't have to ask her a question. I asked a few follow-up questions just to kind of, get a little bit more in depth, but she knew what she wanted to say and she got right to it. And then her dad was also had some really good stuff to offer.
Yeah. Each family had a lot to offer, and it wasn't hard to tell their story. What was hard was cutting down each part.
And and that's always the tough part is deciding what to cut, because you're like, oh, this is so good. But in the end, you really have to cut everything that doesn't advance the story that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And
she was so emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you said you had a hard time even keeping it together yourself.
A little bit. I'm kind of heartless, but...
No, that's not what you told me. You're trying to act all tough on this podcast, but you said, I'll tell you what, it's hard to see a kid lose it like that.
Well, I don't know if it was as much like I was breaking down as I was just kind of feeling a little bit uncomfortable and unsure, because when you're interviewing an adult and they're getting emotional, then it's usually my instinct is to just shut up and let it play out, because you want to let that emotion come through on camera.
Yeah.
But with a kid, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about doing that, because
You want to respond.
I want to respond. I want to make them feel better. And I don't feel quite right. Just, because kids generally, they're not as good at emotionally regulating. And I don't want to just let this kid totally fall apart on camera.
Yeah.
So that's something that I was like, I really don't know what to do here.
I think it's good for her. I think it's good for the family. They'll look back on this when she's grown. That's another aspect I didn't think about, is like, this is something for them and their families to have for a long time. Who knows what these kids are going to turn into. And, maybe they'll be using this for their life documentary if they become some big, famous, important person or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's exciting that they're getting the help that they need. And each one of them seemed like the school has really helped them and made a difference in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at the end, we kind of came back around to Carter's story, just to kind of resolve out that storyline.
Yeah.
And I thought it had a strong conclusion, really showing how much he's improved and how much just, being able to read has changed his entire outlook on life,
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. And then, we had, of course, the fun little ending section.
It turned out really good.
Which honestly was kind of a good little coda to the piece, just because, I think Harrison's the only kid in the documentary who shows up in this little ending section. But I liked that we got a chance to see more of the kids from the school. And,
yeah.
It's like, hey, we're telling the story of these 4 kids, but we could have told a story about any 4 kids from the school.
Sure.
We could have picked any one of them and made probably an entire documentary about them, just because they've all got such compelling stories. And so I thought that was kind of a fun thing where I actually was just going out to the school just to get a little bit of extra footage of Harrison that one day, and Tammy was like, hey, I've got this idea. I think we should film this. And I said, all right, let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, it worked out. And I love that's how we end it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good part. And then the exciting stuff for the future of the school and how they're going to educate the educators. I think that's going to make a huge difference, because if we can teach teachers how to teach kids that struggle with this, then we can, make a big dent into the problem.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be fun too, because, we're already talking with Tammy about how are we going to, tell that story and what's that going to look like, because they're going to be doing their first cohort through that class summer of 2024. And, I think it's going to be a little bit of brainstorming to figure out, okay, we used a 20-minute documentary and kind of these 4 stories to show the stories of the children. Well, now how are we going to tell the stories of the educators learning? And we don't know yet. We're not sure. Yeah. But we've got a little bit of time to figure that out. But I'm excited for kind of the possibilities of
Me too.
How are we going to get creative with that and do something fun and engaging. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't watched the full film, go to social media. It's all over the place. Go to our Facebook page at Bella Media, Dyslexia School of Houston. Or am I flipping it again?
No, you got it.
The Dyslexia School of Houston. Thank you to Miss Tammy, everyone at the Coding Academy who let us invade their space. All the teachers, all the families. We hope that everybody enjoys it. And if please go like and share and add comments, and maybe this will help some kids and other people out.